And due to the fact that my ministry calls me away so often, when I can't be here, she's going to be your host, and we are going to hopefully bring more and better testimonies and more interesting things to talk about. Things you can't always discuss in the mainstream, for you can't say this, you can't say that. And in our case, it's not about beeping out the profanity. It's about, we want to talk about Jesus, and we want to talk about what he's done and how he's transformed people. Our ministry is all about transformation, and we can do more if we show love. So what are you about? Are you about love or hate? Why is our country so consumed with hatred? Why does the local news always have something tragic? Well, for us, we know it's a lack of God, because he is
Amen.
the source of all true and pure love. Love is not that feeling like we've talked about on past shows. Love is the truth of God and what he intended us to be. And he intended us to be whole, healed, financially secure, and loving to your neighbors. Who's your neighbor? Everyone who is in your path who needs you. And we're not talking about just, you know, making choices and saying, I'm not helping that person because they were unkind to me. Well, we need to help whoever Jesus would have helped. But that also doesn't mean take abuse, because abuse is from evil. And we so often twist it. And
Yeah.
we believe sometimes we deserve bad treatment, where we don't, but we can still forgive and go on. But you don't have to be caught in crossfire of
Yeah.
wrongdoing,
Well,
hatred, evil.
I believe that Jesus always shows up for people that really have a heart for Jesus.
Yes.
You have to have a heart.
Yep.
And if you don't have a heart, then you don't. But like in my life, in my past, I've had a heart for Jesus since I was very young.
Yeah.
And I've given that to my children. Like, my children all have a heart for Jesus. And I have one daughter that actually will pray with people. Like, my mother won't feel good, so she'll go there and say, Grandma, to come over and pray with you.
Yeah.
Because it's love.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the main concern. When you do something with love, you get a better response.
Absolutely.
And you can't go from being like mean to someone and then all of a sudden being nice. That don't work.
Well, that's just the height of hypocrisy, is just to say, oh, I love you, and then wham, hit you with something else. And,
Right.
you can't have it both ways. Love is
Right.
an action.
Right. It's
And
not just a word.
we often forget that love is an action. And hate is an action.
Mhm.
But that starts, all hatred and all evil starts with a thought, planting that wrong seed.
Right.
And we've been planting the wrong seeds for years. And from the beginning of time, there's somebody always planting the wrong seeds. So we have to plant good seeds and believe that they are going to show a harvest. Just like this radio station, Harvest Radio Station. It's growing up people into true love, the true love of God.
Exactly.
So now we've gotten so out of kilter that our world's upside down, and wrong is good and good is bad. And it's crazy how you can be out in the world and people will get mad at you for nothing if you say you're a Christian, because they have all these predetermined notions of what you are because of things they've seen on the news or heard, or their church was bad, or this pastor went away for sexual immorality. And all these things do happen, but it doesn't happen when you have that relationship with God, because he cleans you up from that. So us throwing fuel on the fire and saying, well, I went to that church and they did this and I'm never going to church again. It's not about church. It's about a relationship with Jesus Christ, because he
Right.
is total love.
Yes.
So now we have to legislate everything. Everything now is good or bad, and this is a hate crime. We were talking about hate crimes.
Yes, we were on the way
And
here.
what do they really mean,
Yeah.
So
What is the meaning of a hate crime?
yeah.
Like, does it mean, like, all of a sudden you're going to get in an argument with somebody, and then all of a sudden it's a hate crime because they're a different gender or color
Yes.
or religion?
Yes.
No, that's not what a hate crime is.
No.
No, a hate crime is when you plot somebody that is maybe a different color, gender, or something, and you've been plotting to go against them.
Right.
That's a hate crime.
Yes. Yes.
There's too much of other stuff in the world where people just try to say, well, that's a hate crime
Yeah.
because you're a different color or gender of the person.
Right, right. So we've kind of fallen into this. Everyone's opinion can override the case, so to speak. So there's a particular case out there where a man was trying to go into the ladies' bathroom because he was dressed in a dress and said he was going to become a woman. And there was a man outside that said, you know, my wife's in there. I don't feel comfortable with you in there. You got your man parts. He said yes. He said then you don't belong in the women's restroom. Now I think that you have every right to say that, and I also think that, if he had already had his operation and you want to go argue with that, I wouldn't even argue with that. But when you know that the other person is not the gender they're projecting to be, you have a right to say, could you not go in there?
Because what if that person was a rapist?
Yes, that's exactly it. And there's
what if
been
that person
so
was
many
going
cases.
in there to hurt somebody and not
Yes.
really just going to the bathroom?
Exactly.
You don't know how people are these days.
No, you don't.
So now this poor guy is looking at a hate crime.
Yeah, and actually what happened was the man who didn't want the guy who says he's transgender to go in the restroom when his wife was in there actually lost it and hit him and broke his jaw. Now that's a terrible thing.
Now he's wrong for that.
He is absolutely
He should get a
wrong.
battery charge,
A
but
battery charge, but not a hate crime.
not a
So
hate
the
crime.
state's coming in saying it's a hate crime. Now I don't know how you can even call that because that's taking your will and projecting it upon someone else, and that shouldn't be right in the law because you can take that way to the extreme, because there are times when you are going to argue with somebody from a different religion, a different nationality, a different whoever we are,
Yes.
but we can have verbal discussions without hate. But we also, if we get heated, sometimes it's about the issue and one person is trying to do
Right.
wrong and abuse your rights, and then somebody in the crowd pulls it out and says, oh, I was a witness, and it's because Jose's, he's Puerto Rican and Lynn doesn't like Puerto Ricans, so we're going to call that a hate crime.
Right.
And it might be not true at all. So
And
every case needs to look at it individually.
Well, I think that, this happened in, I believe it was in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the people in Oregon should actually, if they could, write the governor a letter to help this guy because
We're
it's
going to make
not
you
really.
speak up, Denise.
Yeah,
All right.
no, the mic is fine.
Yeah.
You just need to speak up a little bit.
Sorry, is that better?
Yes,
Hello?
there
Are
you
you
go.
there?
Okay.
So anyway, that's what I'm trying to get
There you
across
go.
today, to help this gentleman, okay, where actually people can write to the governor and help him not go to prison for a hate crime.
Yeah,
Maybe,
I mean, for the battery charge,
Yes.
if he did so and he's found guilty, he deserves, because we're not supposed to be putting our hands on people, obviously.
No, he's wrong for that.
So, but to make it into something that it isn't, we really have to stand up about these things, and they're happening more and more,
Yeah.
So, you have to get down to what's right and what's wrong, not about what other people think that should go on in the case. One case at a time, please, people. Let's
Yeah,
get there.
If I can, I would like to interrupt on that and say something on that. But, it's all good and dandy until it happens to them.
Yes.
Yep.
It's all good and
Mhm.
dandy until it happens to them. When this law came in effect, I thank God my daughters was, they're women now
Yeah.
with kids. So now she has to deal with, I dealt with thinking if my daughters were small,
Mm-hmm.
do I take them to the bathroom with me? Or do I let them go in there by themselves?
Yeah.
Yep.
And make sure that I stand by the door so they can go in there and hope that nobody comes in, stands up to go to the bathroom in one of the stand-up stools as a man.
Right.
Right.
But I'm not gonna let them go into a bathroom where men are going into, because what happens if he does something in there?
Yeah.
It's,
Well,
the picture is wrong
yes.
automatically.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's like what you girls said. Good is bad and bad is,
Bad.
Yeah. But everybody's trying to make it so no one gets hurt. well, the truth is, there's no way to live life without somebody's feelings getting hurt.
Right.
And we're supposed to be stronger than that, too, you know?
Well, they also have places where they have like co-ed bathrooms. You ever see those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and in a way
Most
that,
restaurants are.
Yeah, and if it's a co-ed, then you know everybody knows. But if it specifically says women and men,
yes,
Yeah.
then
yeah,
And,
that-
yes, and then, you know, I want to say too, it doesn't matter if you got your sex changed.
right,
You're still a man.
right.
All you did was some surgery to get it look like or whatever. You still have thoughts like a man.
Yeah.
You're never going to change that.
Now, some people will argue that, but for me, when you already know that you still have the man's equipment and you're trying to pull it over, like, that's just a lie. You know, it's not. You haven't even had the surgery. You know, I haven't even done
Exactly.
Yeah, I still wouldn't want
Yeah.
them in there.
that. Yeah.
Me neither. I have 17 grandchildren. I wouldn't want my grandchildren. They go
Mhm.
play football, soccer. They never go to the bathroom alone. You
Mhm.
can't. Not in this day and age. You cannot send your grandchildren, any children.
Yeah, and how messed up is that? That we're more concerned about somebody's agenda than we are the individual cases that come out
Instead
of this
of-
type of abuse.
Instead of
and it
being
is
worried
abuse.
about bringing them to the life of Christ,
Yes.
we got to worry about them going into a bathroom
Yeah.
if there's a man in there.
Right. Right.
I mean, the world has changed,
Yes.
Yes, it has.
and it's still changing to the worse.
Mhm.
It's not
Well,
getting any better.
What is that? We're back in the days of Noah. So basically,
Yeah.
we've reverted instead of growing forward anymore. We're back.
Mhm.
It's
We're
very
back
sad.
in time again. You know. And you think we're gonna get it. I mean, I don't know about you, but without Jesus, I don't think I would make it through the tough stuff. You know, I'm grateful that
I
He's
wouldn't be
there
where I
every
was
minute.
today.
Jails be full
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yes.
be
The
where I am
jails
today
will be
without
full.
Jesus.
Yes.
to capacity.
Yes.
You know, we think that we got to thank the Lord that there are a lot. They say if they were to get all the churches together, all over the country,
Hmm.
there are more Christian, godly relationships than there are people in the world.
Yeah.
That is why the jails are not
Oh,
full.
Well, and you know, the thing is, for years they started this whole thing about having to be fair to all religions. And you know, we're a godly Christian, Judeo-Christian nation based on, you know, Jehovah God and His plan. Now, if our laws and the Constitution was written from that point of view, why do people insist that every religion is the same and they can come in and change our way of life? You would never go to a Muslim country, a Buddhist country, and think that you could change their laws. Now, we hope that you can change individual by individual and they'll all come to Christ, and then we won't have any more arguments. But you wouldn't go in and try to change the country at the government end, because they'd kill you most likely. But here we're doing that. We're letting in
because
and causing confusion. That's all we've done is cause confusion.
Well, I think that too many people worry about religion instead of worrying about being a Christian
Right.
In a relationship.
Yes.
and having their relationship
Yes.
with
Right.
Jesus. Like me, I have a personal relationship with Jesus.
Right.
Like I may not go to church,
Mm-hmm.
but I pray every day at my house. I read the
Mhm.
Bible, and I know I should be going to church, but I don't know. I don't get nothing out of it when I go there, usually.
Well,
Some churches I'll go in and feel the Spirit, but I get more feeling the Spirit at home on my private with Jesus.
well, Jesus didn't say go out and build a building and bring everybody in. They went from house to house too. And
Yeah.
we still can tithe into ministries that are doing good, you know? We can tithe into Jose. You guys can tithe into me. We can, because we're doing God's work. So I pretty much think that God knows your heart, and,
Right.
and He knows where you belong. And sometimes you weave in and out of churches, or you find
Well,
another one, but
Instead of giving my 10% of money,
hmm
I love cooking. So what I do is I cook really good food and I share.
yeah.
And I share with lots of people.
And that
cooking.
probably means a lot to a lot of people.
Because they'll go, oh
Yeah.
my goodness, you're a great cook.
I think that the concept of going to church has been totally destroyed by man.
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Okay, again, this is just my personal opinion, you know, but we all need a church and we all need to be in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? is because that's where we go to get our strength with
Right.
other brothers and sisters.
Right.
We can't do it alone. We know that. This walk of the Lord Jesus Christ, you need help, because if we're in battles and we're in a relationship
Mm-hmm.
and we have to call on Jesus, on God, Lord, please take this yoke off my neck.
Right.
And I don't have a brother to stand me down, so when I fall, who's going to help me to lift up?
Right.
So it's not the concept of going to church to get fed, but it is to get fed, but it is to worship. That we go there to worship and praise Him
Mm-hmm.
together as a family,
Yeah.
as He wants it.
Yeah.
Now they took that concept of giving and making it bigger and making coliseums. You know, as the church, and you probably know 5 people in a big coliseum of a church. The pastor cannot know all those people.
Right.
Right.
But as long as the people are getting fed and they're helping one another, hey, brother, sister Denise haven't been in church in 3 weeks. Anybody know what's going on? That's what the church is made for.
Yeah. And if you don't have a
Lynn-
church that checks that,
Yeah,
you
and
need to
where's
bring it
Sister
up.
Lynn? Lynn hasn't been around in a month and a half.
Yeah.
You know, and she just hasn't been going to church.
Yeah.
Who is doing that?
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
That's what it's needed. The concept is to keep each other standing up, fighting this battle together as an army,
Right. Right.
as a family,
Right.
as a unit. Then it
Mhm.
moves forward. Then it
Mhm.
grows
Mm-hmm.
the way it should be
Right.
in Jesus Christ.
Now I've been in lots of churches where nobody checks on you forever, but they act like you're the best thing that happened when you walk through the door, and they're so, where have you been? But nobody called to find out where you've been. Now that's got to change within our churches that do
It
that.
does.
We have
Because
to.
that's why I think I've stemmed away from church, because I went to a church
Yeah.
and I took my whole family there. Literally, when we went there, half the church was my whole family. And
Yeah.
every Sunday I would bring somebody different. Every Sunday I had somebody new with me, and I was helped growing the church. And then I needed them at one time. Nobody showed up.
Yeah.
So guess what? That's what made me stem away from the church,
Right.
because I was doing my part
Right.
and they weren't doing theirs.
Yeah.
And then that makes
that's
me feel,
unfortunate.
you know,
And there's 2 concepts there, Denise.
Yeah.
And one, like I said, we need them to help us when we're feeling weak.
Right.
The other is we don't go there for man.
right. No, we go there
We
for
go there
Jesus.
for the Lord.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So even the Bible says it. I pity the man who goes for men.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, because you
Now-
don't get nothing out of it.
But when you go to the church, it don't matter who's on your left, it don't matter who's on your right. It's who you're looking at, dead center.
Right.
And it's not the pastor.
Right. It's not right.
And you can feel
and
that.
and we can fall into our own will and deny it, but that really does damage to the church as a
Mm.
whole. It's so sad, you know. I mean, I look back at all the things I've done wrong and wrong thinking, and the more I get into God's word, and the more I feel comfortable that He's speaking to me every day. You know, you don't want to do wrong, because it's just it's so heartbreaking. We hurt so many people, you know.
Yeah.
And-
Well, people live in the flesh.
Well, yes, and we're supposed to crucify our flesh every day.
Right.
And so, you know, for us to say, oh, there's a whole group of people that say, well, we live under grace. Well, that's true, but that doesn't mean it allows you to perpetually sin. You know, that's
Right.
just mocking God.
Right.
So maybe you struggle with some stuff, and it's none of my business what you're struggling with, as long as you're coming to the Lord and He's growing you up in it. And if I see you fall, and you come back, you want to be forgiven. Yes, I'm supposed to forgive you, and God always forgives you. But we can't use that as a license
A
to sin.
license,
Yeah.
exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, yeah, that teaching's got to go somewhere. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, we end up walking in the wrong places sometimes because we're trying to prove that, oh, holier than thou. That's the words I'm looking for. People are always saying to you, oh, you don't do this because you're holier than thou. Actually, a lot of stuff I don't do anymore is because I don't really feel comfortable in some of the places I've been before, you know?
Right.
So I don't need to go to those places anymore because it doesn't,
But
it's
you-
not fun.
But the thing is, to
You know?
me, sometimes you probably do need to go because Jesus is at those places.
Well,
Because
sometimes,
he's
yes.
trying to save people. So that's why
But
he
you can
sends you to those
feel it
places.
in your spirit. Do you know what I mean? You can walk into one restaurant and feel good about being there, and you can walk into another one and you can feel this negative energy from that type of evil that is in that place. You know,
Right.
when you grow up in the spirit, you can feel like, I probably shouldn't be here, and that's God telling you something bad may be gonna happen. You might want to leave. You know,
Yeah.
he does let you. He gives you promptings when you're uncomfortable. You need to pay attention to why you're uncomfortable.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
and not just be convinced that, oh, you're leaving because you're too good for us now or whatever. Maybe you're leaving because it's for your own protection. You know,
Mhm.
so I don't know. We have to get kind of standing up in that. So
Maybe on that one.
yeah. So, if the opposite of hate is love, how are we going to get better at showing love as godly people to the ungodly to bring them up in their faith instead of pushing them away from the church?
Prayer.
Yeah. Prayer in each moment, prayer in the
Prayer.
altercation, prayer in, yeah.
Teaching people how to pray the right way.
And how to shut up sometimes, because some people are just going to antagonize you, and if you get into an altercation, you lost the battle. You lost the battle. So
Right. I've had situations where I would start praying for people that are yelling at me, because you know
Yeah.
you're praying good, but you got to pray in bad too. Because
yeah,
when you pray in a bad situation, God shows up. He shows up for me. Like I had these alcoholic neighbors. They would only come out in the afternoon, and we never realized why, but they were drinking. I didn't know this. And one day I said, I'm going to send Jesus after you. They went in the house, and I didn't see him for a couple of days.
Jesus coming to get you.
I said, Jesus is coming. And it worked. But, you know.
Well, you freak people out too if you say, say stuff like that. You know? It's like, oh yeah, when you first look at somebody that's always giving you grief, and you go, man, you got to get rid of that demon, because I'm not going to stand here and talk to that thing. People go, what is she talking about? What do you think I have a demon? Yeah, who else would act like that?
Or they have a different name for that person.
Yeah. Well, that's true too, you
Yeah.
know.
Like people when they drink, and they drink a lot, and they become somebody else. And then people have names for that. And I'll be like, I never seen that person.
You know what I think? You know what I think about that? I think that people say, well, I drank too much and that's why I acted that way. And truthfully, you wanted to act that way all along. And the alcohol just let you have the courage to rise up that evil that you are pretending it's all about the drinking. That's why I'm sick and tired of hearing people say, well, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't drunk.
Right.
Well, you might have if you thought you could get away with it,
Right.
you know.
Sometimes it's
and
an
now
excuse.
this is your excuse. Yeah, yeah.
Alcohol's an excuse.
I mean, you know, there are people that never have an altercation when they're
But
drinking,
there's
and
there's a lot of people in
yeah.
prison too.
Yeah.
That because they were on drugs
Yeah.
or drinking, they're sitting in prison.
well, yeah,
And then they're thinking
because
about,
it didn't
I don't even remember doing what I did.
well,
Like, you know,
that's where you've really gone off the deep end,
Yeah.
you know.
You drank too much, blacked out.
had a
Yeah.
blackout and hurt someone.
I had a Christian woman tell me, we were talking about this guy that I met in prison who was on drugs and was at a party and woke up handcuffed to the banister because he had attacked somebody and like he remembered nothing. He remembered nothing. And she was arguing, she said, that's not even true. People can't black out and not remember what they did. And I'm like, yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Yes, they can.
Especially with the crazy drugs that people take today, you know? So,
They destroy your mind.
yeah.
And then what happens is then you have to go on medicine because your mind ain't straight.
But, you know, and your mind isn't straight because you allowed evil in when you do that.
Right.
You allow it in, and people don't want to look at evil and good spirits, but that's what's running the whole thing.
Talking about evil and stuff, how do you feel about Halloween?
I feel like Halloween was steeped in evil from the beginning, but our culture had made it about trick-or-treating for the kids, and I don't really have a problem with that. I've always had a problem with the costumes being gross and things that feed that spirit of evil. But you know, you see people have churches and the kids don't want to be left out, and I don't think there's anything wrong with dressing up in cute things and going trick or treating. A lot of people have changed that to we're having a harvest festival or our neighborhood's going to do this. I think that's great. I think it's more in the intent, just like everything else. I think everything starts in the intent. Now, me, you know, I have no desire to participate in Halloween, but I did let my kids go trick or treating and stuff.
Same here.
Yeah.
My
So,
my daughter doesn't celebrate, nor my grandchildren are never
a
gonna.
lot of people don't.
Because she said that's bringing the evil in when you celebrate that. But I always thought
I
it
think
was.
it's in the intent.
I thought it was like Holy Saints Day or something.
Well, and there's people that did that too. So they've
the
mixed
Catholic-
all the cultures together, you know.
Mhm.
But you know, if you're out there and you're with the Satanists, well, that's what it's all about that night. We know that.
Mm.
So you do want to, you know, keep away from that evil stuff. I don't think you should bring.
If-
Just like voodoo. Like if you're out in an island somewhere and they practice voodoo and then they start selling the voodoo trinkets for yeah,
Dolls?
but they have that kind of stuff in all the tourist shops and stuff. I've decided I really don't want to bring in stuff like that because it was steeped in evil and witchcraft.
And it's letting it in.
And you know, years ago I didn't think there was any big deal about it, but it's like, but why bother? Why spend your money on something that could potentially pique curiosity towards that evil false religion, you know?
Well, if you look up the thing of Halloween, it goes back many, many, many years back. It started with evil,
Mm-hmm.
and it's finishing off with evil.
Yeah, it did.
You're just celebrating, you know, just like anybody else. When we're kids, just like Christmas, you let them believe in whatever it is, because when they get to a certain age, they're gonna find out it's all a hoax.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they just believe
But
it.
these are just kids or whatever. But the Halloween thing, you're just asking them, you know, bring in, you know, and a lot of people say, see, that's why I don't like, you know, things about God and this and that. You take, no, we're not taking anything. We're not doing anything
Mm-mm.
different. Look at the weirdos that come out. They put razor blades and needles inside
Well, that's true.
And apples
candies
yeah.
and things like that. It brings out all the wrong things. They
Right.
can do it all year long,
Right.
but it's the one year they go out and get it
to do it. Yeah.
to eat it and to, you know, and
Where
this
they
is
can
what
get
they
away with
find in
it.
them. And they're not, you know, they find drugs in it or whatever, you know, and they even make candies with drug in it so that when you eat it, the kids are spazzing out or whatever
Hallucinations.
and dying.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's all
So
from
it
evil.
started with evil and it's going to finish off with evil.
Right.
And it's
Right.
just a way of this world. That's all
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And everybody, you know, they always have to put their man hand in it
Mm-hmm.
and mess it up.
Yep.
But I remember hearing a preaching how this all started. And you have to go back many things and many times in the, you know, going back searching and the Bible really doesn't talk about it, but you find evil in evil.
Right.
So whatever is in evil is going to be there.
Right. Right.
And whatever is not of God, it's just evil,
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and if you put that in perspective, then
you know.
you just know that you love him more, so you care less about the things that the world says, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, okay, if it's not a big deal, then you shouldn't care that I don't want to participate either,
Right.
you know?
Because even me, when I was a kid, I went out and trick-or-treated.
Yeah, we did too.
All I did was put a little white thin lines on my face, and that was it. I didn't do no big deal,
Mm-hmm.
you
Just
know,
to get the candy.
Yeah.
just to get the candy, you know, and
And
I'd
that's
go
what it's
home
about
and
for
my
kids.
parents wasn't.
Yeah. But as
Happy
they hit
about it,
that
but it was-
teenage nest, they start wanting to explore, and then it's like, ooh, I
Yeah.
want to see the slasher movies and all that. And what is that doing? Except for feeding
I don't like any
your
of those
self-con,
movies. I don't watch
your
that stuff.
subconscious. I don't either. Never liked
I don't
any
like
of
scary movies to begin with. If I watch a scary movie and I'm at home alone, forget that.
it. Yeah.
I remember when Exorcist first came out in the
me-
drive-in,
in Whitestone
Mm.
Drive-In in the Bronx.
and I seen it there, and I was like almost underneath the seat in the back seat. My cousin and I.
Yeah.
Because it was so big, because it was a drive-in, You couldn't get rid of the sound because the speaker was right there in the window. My mom and dad were going to church, so they wasn't fair in that.
Yeah.
I slept in the closet for about a week. My cousin slept in the closet with me, but I found out that my father couldn't sleep because it was that potent
Yeah.
of evil in it.
Yes. Yes.
And that much potent. Well, that's why the girl died. I mean,
Yeah.
Linda
so
Blair,
much.
she passed away.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she died, and not only the guy that played for Chicago Bulls, Dennis Rodman, he used to date that girl. One of the songs is dedicated to her. Rick James dated her too.
Wow.
She's a very kinky girl.
Mm.
That song was dedicated to her.
Really?
Wow.
Well, what you didn't know, right?
And the things
I'll
that
sing
you
it at
know in that
karaoke now.
song is all about her.
Wow.
That's how, just doing the movie, you know where her soul went.
Well, and it affected her.
And
the-
affected her, and
In her
the
life.
evil stood with her.
Yeah. You know, what I always thought about that, and I was a kid when that came out, and I remember thinking, what mother would let their 14-year-old daughter do this movie? You know,
Yeah.
I didn't see the movie. I never
About the
saw
money.
the movie. Never seen the movie.
all
Didn't
about the
want to
money.
see the movie. And when my daughter,
Exorcist 1,
Nicole.
Exorcist 2,
Yeah.
after that,
Yeah.
They even made that movie. They had a part of there in the Bronx, the steps.
Yeah.
When she falls down the steps. I've been to those steps.
well, my daughter was staying the night at one of her friends' house, and she was about 11. And this man was a judge in our town, and he and his wife were divorced, and Debbie and I were friends, the ex-wife. And she said Jamie would like to have Nicole over at Daryl's house. And I said, okay, if that's okay. She said, yeah, it'll be fine. And I said, okay. Well, the next morning I come pick her up, and she's like walking out like and all freaked out. And I said, what's the matter? And she said, you know, whatever, the father's wife wanted us to watch a movie with her. I said, what did you watch? And she said, The Exorcist.
Oh,
And I was
no.
like, oh my gosh. And I walked up to that man and I said, Daryl, as a judge, I really question your judgment. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, who lets 11-year-old girls watch The Exorcist? I mean, that's crazy. And he didn't even know what to say. And then I came back and I told her mom, you know, the ex-wife, I said, Debbie. And she said, oh my gosh, did you say that to him? I said, yes. And she said, oh, I'm sure he don't like that. And I'm like, I don't care. I didn't like that he let them watch it either. You know? And then I started thinking, that's funny, because as I look back, that has become more interest of me when I vote and stuff. What is this judge about? You know? You know, what are his beliefs? Because I want people behind the bench that know God and have better judgment than that, for sure, you know.
What was on his mind completely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. I know a lot of people don't like Trump, but I'm glad he's a praying president. When I see him praying, because I've never seen that before in my whole life, a president that's been praying.
Oh, I've seen him pray. I've seen him pray.
Other presidents?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't noticed.
Ronald Reagan always prayed.
He did.
And even George Bush prayed. I'm not sure exactly where he is in the whole mix there, but, you know, God does not. I don't have to know. Don't have to know. So,
Well, the thing is that we need to know that the church is love
yes.
and hate is the world.
Yes.
And, you know, to get those two mixed up, all you got to do is visit either one. And you'll see what is what. And, you know, it's a good topic you girls brought up. Like I said, if you just stop going to church for the people and go for God
Yourself.
Himself,
Right.
you know, and I'm gonna, Denise, I want to say this to you, and don't take it wrong or anything. But if you find a perfect church
Don't go
Let
there.
your-
and
Yeah.
you walk in it, it's no longer perfect. Because
Yeah.
you're gonna find something you're not gonna like and you're gonna ask to change it.
Right,
Yeah.
So there's not a perfect church.
right.
The perfect church is in the kingdom when we all get together and we start singing and praising the Lord together.
Oh, I do miss that.
All in a big,
Mhm.
big, huge family.
Mhm.
Not even
Mhm.
a coliseum is made that big for when we all go with it to
Mhm.
worship and praise.
Mhm.
You know, and our thing is just gonna go praise God.
Yep.
And walk with Him and talk with Him.
Yep.
You can have that today in this world. Just go to the church, praise, worship, and come home and you talk to Him.
Praise,
Lord,
worship
your
all
word,
week.
your word today. Take what's yours and let the rest go. Whatever was for you, ask Him about it. But don't let yourself be fooled. You do need a church, and I say that with a loving heart.
Oh, I know, and I do.
Because there's days that, well, I'm sure as a mother you know,
Well, my granddaughter calls me up and says, "Grandma, God missed you at church today." She's 10. So my children all go, and I don't go.
see, and
So I should
I
go.
always believe, out of the mouth of the children
Yes.
comes God's word.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Because they are so loving,
Yep.
so, there's no sin in them. It's
Right.
all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And God can just work through that
Right.
Yeah.
because it's there.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't need to come seek Him or nothing.
Yep.
He's going to it.
Yep.
And that word will come from a child.
Yes.
Mhm.
And the Bible says it. Through the mouth of the babes,
Mhm.
my word will come.
And they do say the doggonest things sometimes. I
Yeah,
get
they
such
do.
a I
They
get
stop
such a
you.
kick.
They stop you
My
Yeah.
in midair.
Yeah.
You know?
My granddaughter come over to my house. She's 20 now. She was around 5 or 6. She said, "I gotta tell you something." And I go, "What?" She goes, "My dad was drinking beer." I go, "He was?" She goes, "But God forgives people who drink beer. Mom told me that." I'm like, "Good." She was like 6. I thought that was cute.
You know, they do just speak whatever is on their heart, and I always think that's interesting when I have friends or now my own children that have children, you know, and my prayer ever since my 2 little people were born, you know, within this last year, is that God will speak through them to lead their parents back to Christ, because out of the mouths of babes, and that will melt someone's hearts, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
It does.
really will. You know, speaking of kids, this is a little off topic, but I'm going to tell it anyways. But when my one daughter Nicole was little, she was about 3.5 or 4, and there was a neighbor of ours, and we used to sit over there and have coffee and stuff, and she was talking about trying to have a baby, and Nicole says, "Why don't you have any kids?" And she said, "Well, I don't know. We just haven't had any." And Nicole says, "Don't you know God?" And she says, "When I was in heaven, God put me in a car and drove me around, and I pointed down and said, 'That's the mommy I want right there.'" And I thought that was so cute. So whenever she'd get mad at me when she was later, I'd say, "Remember, you told God you wanted this house. You wanted us."
That's adorable. That reminds me
Yeah.
of my son Greg telling us that he knew God's phone number. He used to call this one lady up every day and ask for God. He was like 5. And then she called us up and said, "Do you have a little boy or girl there? Because they want to know if Jesus is home when they call this number." It was funny.
Yeah, it is funny.
Kids do funny things when they're little.
Yeah. I love watching the little kids praise God. It's so fun.
Yes,
Just
it is.
see them just
My
dancing in
grandson
joy, you know.
Zion, he's only 2. And as soon as he walks in, he's got his hands up like this, praying.
Yeah.
So.
You're fading into the background.
I'm
Denise's
blessed.
voice goes down and gets
I'm
quieter
sorry.
and
I'm sorry.
quieter.
I'm trying. I have to get used to this radio stuff.
I know.
I
I
didn't
mean,
think it would be this
don't
hard.
Don't go back and look up my old stuff. I mean,
As I get more comfortable with you
Yeah,
guys,
yeah.
you know, it'll be all right.
so, well, we enjoy coming here, and we hope all of you out there enjoy listening to us. And if there's something on your mind, and you want to know how to address, you know, your anger issues or your, your health issues, we're happy to pray with you. And,
Yes, we will.
if you want to know anything more about this radio station and some of the other programs, look into the website, the YouTube, the get the app, spread the app. We're trying to get good shows out there to counteract all the very poor things that are out there being spewed over the airways.
Be more positive.
Yes.
Talk about positive things.
Change your frequency, right, Jose? We're
That's
going to
right.
change that frequency to positive, and all God's word is steeped in love, and we can all learn a lot. And you will naturally change, when
Yes,
you
you
just
will.
start really getting in the word and talking to God, you will change,
Yeah.
And that's what we're hoping. We're hoping for his love to just permeate so much. But in that, we have to help who we can.
That's
help
right.
Who we can. And
It's
go
true.
on.
I was at my cousin's funeral this week, and there was over 250 people there.
250, you say?
250.
In case you can't hear her.
The whole church was full, and people were standing. And to see the love that his family had for him and the love he had for everyone was amazing. It was just very,
Yeah.
heartbreaking, because like his grandchildren were all like crying for him, and I was like, oh my goodness, my heart was just so full, and it was just an awesome
Yeah.
funeral.
Yeah.
That was,
It's such a great thing when you go to a funeral and a passing where people have nothing but loving things to say about that
they're literally
person,
celebrating.
and you feel that did their job, they're where they belong, and all the effect, you see all the effect on the other people. That's so big,
Yeah.
We forget that all of our words affect people and how dangerous that is. So is our tongue speaking life and love, or is it speaking hate and death, And sometimes people speak things that are very hurtful and
Right.
then justify it because you did this or they did that, and we're not supposed to do that. The
No.
Bible says, be angry, but sin not. And there are times when people make you angry,
Right.
and you have to remember,
There's also
shut
people
up,
that are
walk
mad
out
at
of the room.
people that'll tell me that they're mad at Jesus,
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, have you told them?
yeah,
Because that's what you have to do.
you do.
If you don't want to talk to, if you're mad at him, he's the one you got to talk to,
Yeah,
because he will show you the way
yeah,
instead of being mad at him.
yeah. And are you really mad at him, or are you mad at yourself
For the
for
situation.
for the interpretation that you have of who he is? So a lot of our hatred or flailing our arms at God comes from the wrong interpretation that you may have been taught even in the churches. So we've got to really get in his word, never mind what this denomination taught or that denomination taught, because
Right.
that's where we get confused. And God is not the author of confusion.
Right.
So,
It's all in the basic instructions before leaving Earth over there. the
yes,
Bible.
yes, the Bible. Yeah. It's a good thing.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Yeah. You never thought you could get so much joy out of a book, but you really can.
And I'll tell you what, like, I've read it so many times that I never understood. And just like I was telling you, when I turned like around 40 is when I really started really understanding the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And then I came to that scripture one day where it says all God's children are roamed around for 40 years. And I was 40. And I was like, wow. So it's just telling me right then and there.
That's true.
Am I talking louder?
Yeah, a little
All
bit.
right.
You come and go.
Usually
but you're
I'm the
getting there.
loudest in the room. What is going on?
I don't know.
Sorry. I sound like I have a sweet little voice. I better get tuned up.
You sweet little old grandma. If you can't see Denise, she's just a tiny little thing.
Oh,
You
yeah, right.
hardly can hear her.
Grandma, thanks. Grandma.
Yeah, well, I go by yeah.
I'm Nana.
Jose, you got grandkids?
Yes, I do.
How many?
I have 8.
Wow.
Eight.
No, you win. You have a bunch.
I have 8 and 8. So 8 boys, 8 girls. I have 2 sets. I have one set of twins, and then I have little granddaughters that were born the same year, and they're sisters. Yeah, I have them from. And then Jackson, he's going to be a year old October 9th. I hope I got that right, or the 8th. Ooh, I have to write it down. There's too many.
There is too many. I
Yeah.
only have 2. That's
July
easy.
is the worst month. I have 10 birthdays in July between daughter-in-laws, parents, kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
That's when you
God
just
gives
start
me-
doing one collective birthday and say, y'all come, here you
God
are.
always shows up and gives me the ways to buy them presents all the time.
Yeah.
Like this year, they all got a kayak, but I'm not doing Christmas.
Mm.
No way. I'll be broke.
Here's a cookie for
Because
you.
I want
and
to
a
buy
cookie
them
for you, and a
everything.
cookie
You know,
for
when you're a
you.
grandparent, you want to buy your kids everything,
Mhm.
and you just sometimes you just have to say, "Let's buy another family that has nothing."
Yeah.
We've done that before.
I remember doing that with my one daughter when she was about 12. And the next year she said, can we go buy for all the poor children again? I love that.
Yeah.
And I thought that's cool because there is a difference when you give something to someone who
Who
really
doesn't
doesn't
have it.
have. It's so glorious. You know, maybe you don't need your kid to have another 7 video games.
No.
Take some of that money and go give someplace else and watch your kids light up when you do it. They'll be
Right.
like, yeah, that was so great, because they can't imagine that nobody's given those children anything,
Right.
you know? So,
When they have way more stuff at home. They
yes,
don't need more stuff.
exactly.
We used to we used to clean out the toy closet.
Yeah.
Before Christmas, and take all the old stuff and give it to people that didn't have anything because they knew they were going to get new stuff.
Right.
Make room.
Well, I used to think that that'd be a great thing to do within your neighborhoods anyways, you know, instead of everybody buying the same things, you know, maybe you have a couple of the same things because it's somebody's favorite. But if you could make a little group and trade toys, the kids would never get bored because you every 3-4 months you trade the toys out, but then they come back again, you know.
Yeah.
it's like having brand new stuff all year
Or
long.
game boards, just
And
buy
you'd
each
save a
family
boatload
game
of
board.
money.
Yeah.
Milton Bradley's blocking me right now. No, you can't share that game. We all need it. Every household. Oh, the biggest thing about getting someone to know Jesus is being Jesus. It's when they're hungry, if you can feed them, if you can encourage them. It doesn't mean that you support somebody who's lazy for the rest of their life. It means you give them because you have, and God freely gave to us, so we give. And when we give and encourage, they're going to naturally want to start coming up, you know, but we got to
Uplifting.
uplifting, and we have to
People.
give resources besides just saying, well, that guy's too poor, this family will just keep giving. We have to give them an opportunity to work and to share what little they have, because it will grow what little they have. It's the supernatural law of God that
Right.
we will give freely and we will get. And if we can give a job, if we can give some help, if we can give some hope, and that's what Cell Block Creations is all about. We want to connect with other people that can give a part here that we can't get to, and work together to bring resources, because as wonderful as it is to give to the homeless and to give, they're still homeless. We got to get them up off the street and running. And sometimes that takes a big project. It takes somebody who's willing
They
to
say
give
it
a
takes a
home.
village to raise a kid.
Well, it takes a village to
So it takes a village to help
raise
someone.
a broken family,
Right.
and that's what we have all over this nation. We have
Yes, we do.
broken families, not just this nation, the world.
Well,
But if everybody did their part within their family, we wouldn't have broken families. But we all are caught up in our own selfishness, and I use myself in that too. You know, when you're so busy thinking about how's this going to affect me if I give over here or help over there, you're not doing anything to make it better. You know. And now we're so
Yeah.
broken, we need to build families. We need to build families out of the church. We need to build places for people to go and learn how to be a family again, you know?
It's true.
Now I get to come here on Fridays. Now you get to come here on Fridays. And Anna's here a lot of times, and Jose and Kevin before us, and we're all becoming family. We
Yes,
like it.
I believe that.
We love coming here.
I like coming here too.
So, just build a family. You can build a family.
And I'm going to be in church on Sunday.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Thrive. My daughters go there. I haven't been there.
Oh, to Thrive. I haven't
They've
been there
telling me
either.
about it.
It's in a
high
school. Yeah, it's in a school. So if you're in, what is that city? Is that Port Orange?
It's in Port Orange.
Port
yeah.
Orange, Thrive
Thrive
Church. If you're
Church.
in Port Orange, you might want to try that church out. I've heard some
He
good
was-
things about it.
He
I
was
haven't
actually the
been there.
pastor of the wait at the funeral too.
Okay, okay.
So I really liked what he
Yeah.
was saying and stuff.
Yeah, and there's another church I went to out there. If you're in Port Orange,
Unity.
no, this one is the One Church, and it's in a
The one
school
I sent
too.
you to.
You didn't send me that one. It's the One Church. It's in
I
a
don't know.
middle school.
Oh, it's in Sugar Mill.
No, it's not in Sugar Mill. I can't remember the middle school, but you can just look up the One Church online. You'll find it in
The
Port
One
Orange.
Church?
It's in a middle school in Port Orange that I remember.
So,
But that was a very, you could feel that people wanted to do the work on the outside. They weren't just interested in being pew sitters, and I really enjoyed it, you know. So that's a good place too. So
Silver Sands.
no, I never heard that.
That's the
name.
middle school.
Oh, yes, that is the middle school.
Yep.
You win. Okay, so it's at Silver Sands.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's lots of churches. You will find your fit. Sometimes I want to be in. I've gotten where I've gone to so many churches within the ministry that sometimes I go, oh, I wish I could belong to this church, but I'm too far away. But when I go back, it's like you belong because
Yeah.
that's what the Spirit
'Cause you
does.
visit.
So it's all good. Just find a place where you can get a couple of really good people around you. And sometimes the church just needs a little help themselves. So maybe you come in and make it better. And come in and say, hey, why don't we not always sit in the same seats? Why don't we mix up why don't you as the pastor tell everybody to get up and move around and sit somewhere else, unless there's a particular reason. Sometimes people sit way up front because they're hard of hearing or something.
So you can make friends.
Or back near the bathroom because they need, do whatever. But the point is, we could shake things up. I started doing that in my own church because my church, I noticed people were just very much sitting in the same places over and over. So I just sat in a different place every time. And every time I did that, sometimes people look at me funny because I think I were in their seats. But they never really said anything. But a lot of times people say, are you new? And I've been going there for 3 years. I'm like, nope, I'm not new.
Just in a different seat
Good
today.
to meet you. So I did tell our pastor, I said, you should do that. He said, I might have a riot. Some of those people get really upset about their chairs.
Yeah.
But
You get too comfortable.
too comfortable. Get out of your comfort zone.
It's like I always say when Abraham got visited by the angels, and they were out in the middle of the desert.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't just go there to be there. They were on a purpose. And Abraham brought them into their house.
Mm-hmm.
He gave them the best seats.
Yep.
Under the shade, under the tree. The only tree in the desert. Fed them.
Yep.
Gave them something to drink.
Mm-hmm.
Took care of them. Washed their feet.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't come there to give them anything.
Right.
They didn't come there to take anything. They were just passing through.
Yeah.
And a lot of people nowadays in this world today are just going to church because they need to go that one day.
Right.
And you got 30 seconds to, as soon as they hit that door, 30 seconds to make that life comfortable
Yes.
and enjoy the church that they're walking into.
Yes.
That
Sure.
30 seconds going to let them know everything about that church.
Right. Right.
You made it or you broke it.
Right. Right.
And here we see Abraham, as soon as they came, set them under the comforts,
Yeah.
sat them under the tree, gave them something to eat,
Yep.
and he told them
Yep.
all that they needed there. Told her she was going to have a kid, told her she was going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
going to do that.
Yep.
And you know, Denise, I'm glad to hear you're going to go to church. That pleases me. And I hope,
It's been on my heart for a while to go.
and that's good because then the Spirit was working, because then we know that it wasn't just something I had to say,
Right.
something
I
that
needed to hear
be
it.
said.
Yeah.
Right.
And you will see a difference when you go with a different mentality.
Yeah.
It's not about people.
It's about me. Jesus.
Because remember, people only work on emotions.
Yeah.
God works for eternal.
Right.
And where he wants you is in his house so you can have the eternal.
Right.
You can find it in your house. You're absolutely correct.
Right.
But you're not going to find the help that you need
Right.
to help you stand up, dust yourself off, and say, let's go through this battle now.
Right.
I've gotten my strength. That's where you go get strength.
Right. Right.
So it pleases me.
And sometimes you're somebody's strength
Yeah.
because you walk through that door and you're the exact person that that person needs, and they hadn't found that person in the church. You know, I mean, obviously we all have different personalities, and while we're called to love each other, there are some people you like a little better, but that comes from common backgrounds, common things that, and God knows that, and that's, he may be putting you in a particular place for somebody else.
Go be the church
Go be the church.
that the church needs.
Right.
I will.
So.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
That is Radio Cosecha with Lynn Kaufman Brown and Denise
Sabino.
Sabino. Here on CBC, we want to thank everybody who's tuned in. Everybody, Eddie from all the way out there in Kissimmee area, or Tampa area, Orlando area. Victor, thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
All those who are watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in. We also want to let you know about AC Marchbank Family Funeral Home. They do burials, cremations, and yes, they do speak Spanish. Veterans owned and operated, offering discount services to all our veterans that are in need. They pride themselves in tailoring their prices to meet their clients' needs. We're the working man's funeral directors. You can find them at 1307 East Normandy Boulevard, Suite 2, Deltona, Florida 32725. Telephone number is 386-259-4330. Fax number 386-259-4415. Look up their website. They got all their information there. www.acmffh.com. AC Marchbank, and ask for Cliff. Tell him Jose sent you from Radio Cosecha. And we want to thank y'all for tuning in once again. Don't forget, Tuesday, Soul Purpose and Radio Cosecha are tuning and uniting together. We're going to be on at 7 p.m. We want to thank CBC for being here today with their title, Love or Hate.
Choose love.
Choose love all the time.
Because we see hate all day in the streets.
Yes,
Yep.
we do.
We see it in the world.
Yep.
We want to thank y'all for tuning in once again. Denise,
Sabino.
looking forward to having you join the team.
Yep.
Welcome to the house.
Yes.
Welcome to the family. Welcome to Radio Cosecha, where this is ours, but now you own it too.
Thank you.
And welcome to Cell Block Creations, because
Yes.
Denise has stepped up and going to be part of the ministry team. And we just want to spread the word that we want to help with the artists starting over. And you can look at our website as well, cellblockcreations.org, or cellblockcreations.net is more about the artwork. And we need help, and we need partners, and we need people that spread the word. So God bless you
Amen.
all, and thank you.
God
Amen.
bless. Have a nice day.
Hope is rising. Never give in, never give up. It's not over. Yeah, war. Yeah, war. Oh, game set, man.